Hi, I'm Joshua-knobe.
Hi, I'm Jesse Bering.
Hey, and today we're going to be talking about the cognitive science of religion.
Yes.
So we're going to be asking questions about how people normally think about religion and about what the sort of fundamental cognitive processes are that underlie our religious beliefs.
That's right.
So to begin with, I just wanted to talk about sort of the basic idea behind cognitive science of religion. So why is it that we use all these kinds of tricky techniques to get at the cognitive science of religion, instead of simply asking people outright what their religious beliefs are and what kind of doctrines they subscribe to?
Well, I think one of the fundamental differences between our discipline, which is the cognitive science of religion, and say the psychology of religion, is that we're much more interested in the basic cognitive architecture underlying religious belief and religious intuitions, for that matter. We're not terribly interested in individual differences and what people say they believe. Because, in fact, I think that we could capture a lot of people's intuitive beliefs or the way that they sort of reason about these big existential questions through experimental laboratory methods rather than simply asking them what they believe.
So someone might say, though, that the sort of, even the fundamental sort of cognitive architecture underlying, say, Christianity might be really different from that underlying, say, Buddhism, that these are really different. But are you thinking there's a single answer that's going to explain the cognitive science of all religions, of Buddhism, of Christianity, etc.?
I wouldn't say there's a single answer per se. I think that we can look at religion and we can sort of carve it up into its constituent joints. I think that there are fundamental attributes in all religious systems that are shared, that, of course, there's tremendous cross-cultural variation and differences in terms of how individuals believe. But if you look across the board at all religious belief systems, you find commonalities. For example, you see a belief that the psychology of the individual or the self survives biological death. You see some sort of creationist beliefs. You see some sort of belief that there is a meaning behind natural events and that they're communicating messages to the self somehow. These basic core sort of existential questions that aren't necessarily theological in nature, but nevertheless play a significant role in religion.
So are you thinking if we just asked people what their religious beliefs were, that somehow what they told us wouldn't reflect, in a sense, their real religious beliefs or how they really thought about religion?
I wouldn't trust what people say to my face as necessarily being indicative of how they actually think. I think that survey reports and questionnaires, for example, don't necessarily capture people's private psychology. That's not to say that people don't believe what they say they believe, but they might not simply be aware of what they're thinking at a very sort of subconscious level.
Well, here it's maybe helpful to think about this research, like, for example, by Barrett and Kyle, showing that people's way of thinking about religion is really different from the way that they say that they think about religion.
That's right. So you're talking about the theologically correct and incorrect. So, yeah, that's actually been quite a while since I've read that literature, but that goes back to 1989, and those findings basically suggested that although people would say, for example, that God can do everything simultaneously, this sort of this omniscience or this omnipotent power, in fact, they reasoned that he can only solve one problem at a time. So if two children are drowning simultaneously at different ends of the earth in two different rivers, they basically say that God saves one child first and listens to his prayers first and then saves the other child. When in fact, if they really believed that God was omnipowerful, then they would actually say that he did it simultaneously.
Oh, so cognitive science of religion maybe could reveal aspects of the way people think about God that they even themselves don't know. If we just asked them, they'd say, I think of God as omnipotent. But we could find out that they really think of God as only being able to do one thing at a time or something.
That's right. This sort of there are limitations on God's abilities in terms of his cognitive processing demands, just as there are limitations with everyday, mundane human beings.
So let's talk about
how the folk concept of God would actually go.
So let's